All right. Good Monday morning, everyone. I believe the rest of us are warm. Russell is a little cold this morning, but you guys are listening to Author Talk with me, Amy, Fern, Russell, and our lovely guest today is Anne. And let's just kick it off, okay, as we always do. We always talk about our weekend. I have a big accomplishment this week, and I have two that I want to talk about, okay? One, Russell is going to love, and the other one, probably no one's going to understand but myself. Okay, so the first one, my husband has had this phone for, I don't know, 5 years, and the screen is so cracked that you literally could cut your finger on it. Okay, there's like pieces of the screen missing. And I don't even know what I did, but I got him to order a new phone. So he got a new phone. So you no longer cut his fingers, okay, on the phone. It's kind of one of those, as long as it texts and calls, he's fine. I don't know what his problem is. But the exciting news is we listed one of his motorcycles, Russell. I finally got it listed and posted. Now, here's the thing, okay? So, Anne, let me give you a little background story. My husband bought a motorcycle when I was pregnant with our second daughter, the whole thing. And then all of a sudden he had to have this other one. So now he has two. And he's like, no, I'm going to sell both of them. I'm going to sell both of them. Okay, well, he lied, okay, because he's only going to sell the first one. He's going to keep this other one that he bought. And so it was a huge milestone, like getting this whole thing posted. And I have two people currently that are interested in it, which is going to make me happy. I'll have more space in my garage and only one motorcycle. So it was a big weekend, okay? It was a big weekend.
So he knows you're selling his motorcycle?
I didn't post it. I just told him I needed to post it, or I was going on the curb with a free sign, okay? Like
that's a great story. That makes me a happy Monday morning, Russell.
I thought so. Good morning, Greg. We hope you're having a fantastic Monday. So what did everybody else do this weekend? I mean, I don't know if you can top that, but Fern, go for it.
You can't top it.
I was invited to join a D&D group.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was significant because this is the person that I've been dating for some time who invited me. And this is his little group. And, you know, that's pretty significant when they invite you to join their D&D group. So I created a whole character that I was not aware that there is a website. Okay, Russell, don't laugh. dndbeyond.com. Okay. You go on there and you create your character, and it guides you through the process of all the pieces that you got to put together. It creates the character sheets, you know, and it's got a ton of information and backstories that people have created that you can pick from, which I didn't need because, you know, I make up all kinds of stories myself. And I threw in there my knight, right? Okay. So for the campaign, I'm Sir Andros Dranig because he's the only human knight I had that didn't have like dragonborn blood or something else going on. But it was great. My very first campaign, I decapitated the person that tried to attack me. And I only took like 5 points of damage, of hit, you know, because he did grapple me. But I had like a ton of great armor. So
you basically spent your weekend indoors, is what you're saying.
So basically, I spent my weekend playing D&D. Yeah.
Okay.
And I got myself new dice because, you know, you got to have dice and stuff and a little dice tray and stuff. So, yeah, I'm so excited.
I never realized Fern was such a nerd.
Really? You didn't?
I've known this since day one. Why do you think we get along? Why do you think we get along?
Well, okay? You are a nerd.
I've known this.
She dressed. You should see Amy, and you should see Amy's costumes for Comic-Con.
Oh,
hey,
she's crazy.
Now, wait, we're on Fern. We're on Fern, Russell Fern, not Amy. It's not Amy Day. Okay, remember that was last week. That was
I'm trying to find out Anne's weak points so we can attack Anne.
Yes, Greg, yes.
Anne, what was your weekend?
No, but the best part.
Oh, you have more?
No, the best part. To me, the best part was that, you know, he came with me to a little gathering that of some publisher friends and stuff, and he was totally like involved there and stuff. And, you know, I was like, ooh.
Nice.
I know he's making inroads. He's making inroads.
Okay. I like it. I like it. Russell, what did you ask?
I wanted to know what Ann did this weekend.
Oh.
I didn't know that
Weekend.
Fern had a whole weekend date thing going on.
I did.
Gosh, right?
He tried to take me. He tried to take me outdoors to visit alligators. I was like, no.
Oh, that would have been cool. Why did you nix that? That would have been cool.
She wants dragons, not alligators.
Well,
Dragons, yes.
They're like dragons, but without wings. Okay, just without wings. That's how I view them. That's how I view them.
So, Ann, what did you do?
Oh, so I've been on the road this week, also seeing some friends and family, and so on Friday night, I went sailing on San Francisco Bay, which was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely gorgeous day. We watched the sunset from the sailboat. So it's just me and my husband and this other couple. So it was totally magical until the guy whose boat it was, for the first time in his sailing career of like 20 years, he got hit in the head with the boom. It went across the boat and hit him. And we were so freaked out. And he didn't knock him out. And then you go into this whole thing like, do you go to the hospital? Do you not go to the hospital? And like, we were supposed to go get like Peking duck afterwards, and that didn't happen. The good news is he's fine. He did go to the hospital the next day. Nothing's bleeding. But he kept apologizing. We're like, stop apologizing. I ruined the sunset. I'm like, no, we're really glad that you're just okay. And then I drove around the other side of Northern California yesterday and was in Lake Tahoe to see my brother, and went for a hike by the lake. And it was so gorgeous. But can I just say, Russell, since you know Lake Tahoe, this is off season. This is like April, 5th or whatever. It was already busy, and I can't even imagine like winter and summer. So we enjoyed our little time, and then we scooted right out of there.
Yeah, at Lake Tahoe, I'm shocked that it was already busy.
Yeah, it wasn't swamped. It wasn't like bumper to bumper, but it was like no parking spaces, that kind of thing.
You know, I think people are getting out, you know, because I think we've all
finally.
Well, not you, but other people.
Other people that like nature are getting out, like not me. No,
that was cold. That was cold, but good, Russell. That was
because it was true, right?
It was good.
Well,
I did tell him, okay, when he was insisting I needed to go see these alligators, pet your baby alligators and stuff. Which was a draw.
Eat the alligators.
But so I told him, look, nature and I have an agreement of mutual non-aggression. I don't enter it. It doesn't come to me. We're good.
Okay. This is to everyone on our podcast. And we're also on a podcast. The show will be on the podcast all week. People listen to us while they're working out, while they're fixing dinner. And one of the greatest podcasts we ever had was when there was a wasp in that room with Fern during the show. It was a great show. There was screaming, there was yelling. It was great. Sometimes nature is more aggressive than other times.
It was hilarious.
I don't think the wasp got the memo of mutual non-aggression. You know, it violated the treaty and it died. As a consequence,
those things are wicked.
You're evil.
Okay, I had no good weekend stories because Fern, who is my publisher, Ann, assigned a new editor to me. We had our second meeting Friday. She's very good, but looks like she's 12 years old because she's so young. And she ruined my whole weekend because all I could think about all weekend was what I needed to do. When I could get started. Why is my wife talking to me when I'm thinking about this? That was my weekend. And as soon as the show's over, I'm rushing to start work on it. Mm-hmm. That's my weekend. I had a nothing weekend.
Well, I'm sorry.
But you were percolating.
Yes.
Oh, there's that word again. You say it the best. Like, I don't even know. I used that word when I was talking to Fern on Friday, I think it was. And I used the word percolating. And I even told her, I was like, I don't even know if I used this word right, but I like the word, so I'm going to use it. And she's like, no, you did. You used it right. I was like, oh, all right. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. But
okay.
Word, percolating.
I mentioned our podcast. We want to thank everyone that's listening to us. We were rated in the top 10 in book podcasts on our channels. We actually have moved up from that. Amy explained it last week. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to let her explain it again this weekend, and then tell people how they can find us.
Okay. All right. So there, if you go on Good Pods, there are indie podcast categories, and then there are overall categories for podcasts, which is a mix of both professional and indie podcasts. Okay. We have always been in the top 10 in the indie section for books, arts and entertainment, and there's another one that I have slipped my mind. We've always been in the top 10 over there for the indie section. And now we have moved on to the top 10 overall section, which is combined. We were number 36 last week in the top 100 podcast overall, which was really exciting. And
how could that be?
I don't know, man.
I
told you. I say this every week. We are just grateful that people are listening to us because we just do this because it's fun and we like hearing stories. And so we're kind of shocked that people are listening to it, but we love it. Okay. So
right. We're three schmoes getting to talk to an author. That's kind of our show.
Yeah, we love it. It was Russell's idea 5 years ago, and he approached Sandy with it. I used to just hold the camera and they would talk and make it fun. And we've evolved into what we are today 5 years later. And so we are just so grateful and we love it. And we thank you guys for listening to us. We hope that we bring you some entertainment, some amazing books to read, and some amazing authors and hearing their stories and getting a behind the scenes look of what all really goes into publishing a book that you're reading or you see in a bookstore, because there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, a lot of heart, a lot of passion. In Russell's case, not teamwork at all when you have a love-hate relationship with your editors. So there is a lot of stuff that goes into it, and we try to make it as entertaining as possible. So thank you guys so much for listening to us and putting us in the top 10 and the top 100. We are very grateful for that. And talking about authors, you guys know that we have a membership called Through the Eyes of Authors. We meet Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Well, we are in week number 2 of our author branding series, because sometimes branding yourself is a lot harder than branding other businesses, authors. It's a lot easier. It's harder when you have to do it internally. So we are doing this course. It was Fern's idea, and we're collaborating on it together and Through the Eyes of Authors. And tonight we're talking about websites. You need to have one. If you do have one, what you should have on it or take off of it. Sometimes in branding, less is more, okay? Sometimes more is just too much, okay? Let's back it up a little bit. So we'll be talking about that. If you missed last week's, we talked about logos and colors and how to just brand yourself separate than just, you have an author identity and you have your own personality of who you really are, right? And so we really dived heavy into that, and that's going to feed over into your website design. And we're going to give you resources if you need to create one, if you want to make edits, all of that. That's happening tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time. So you're not going to want to miss that at all, because branding is just my thing. I like playing with colors and logos, and just, I like it. It makes me happy. It's kind of like in my bubble of puppies and unicorns, makes Amy happy. So that's how we do things. But, and Russell, you guys, is attending Monday nights. And we all know, okay, for however long this membership's been going, which is going on 4 years coming up, he doesn't attend Monday nights. Okay?
I don't. I'm not a team player, Ann.
I know.
I'm not a team player. I'm not a get along guy, but I have to do these. Like tonight, I'm kind of, what's your webpage like, Ann? I mean, web pages are a big deal.
It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yes, mine is a combined page. So you can go direct to the book tab by going to liveforjoybook.com, or you can just go to my website and scottlin.com, and there's a book tab there. So that's one thing I would say. If you have a more complex brand than just your book, then get your own book URL and forward it to the tab of the book on your regular website, because that way you can have them introduce them to the rest of what you have going on, but they can also just go straight to the book. So that's kind of how I decided to do that. when I was like, okay, I need a book page. What do I do? Get the book URL and then forward it. So that's been working really well for me, actually.
And it's wonderful. I was looking at your website, to come up with interview questions, and because that's my job. But like, I really love the colors. It's very simple, very easy to navigate, and it has really all the pieces that you need. So it's a really great example of a great website.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of my real principles, was keeping it really clean and uncluttered, and kind of trendy and contemporary. So here's what I did. What I did was surf a whole bunch of websites of people who I love theirs. Didn't have to be authors, didn't have to be trainers, didn't have to be any, and I just like, I would get in there and I'd be like, okay, that feeling that I get is like, oh yeah, that's with my brand. And then the colors, what was I already using for coloring and branding? And it can start with, if you're starting a new website, it could start as simple as, and that's how this one did, because this is like my second or third website, the dress I wore in the photo shoot set the tone for the theme, which is now all over all my stuff. I mean, nobody like really planned it. It just happened. So it's kind of funny how you can just, go with what you already have, work it out, keep it simple, keep it really easy to navigate. And yeah, I love it. It's been really fun.
Well, and I think the color choices, really go with what your message is. I like, the power of joy is a wonderful message, and I think that the website sort of speaks to that. Just in the way it feels when you see it, and the colors and stuff. So, talk to me about you're a trainer. You work with corporations, with leaders, with employees, about finding joy in your job, which feels interesting, because you would think people would pick jobs that they like, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you end up in jobs that maybe is not like your big thing, right? Not your big passion, but finding joy in your jobs. Share with us a little bit. What is that about? What is
sure
about?
Yeah, so it's really interesting what you're saying. Like, people would usually you think people pick jobs they would enjoy doing, but a lot of times people pick careers they think they'll enjoy, and that's what they study and train for, and that's what they get their degrees in. And then when you get to the real world, it's just not quite as romantic and fun as you thought it would be, like many things, right? Or it's you end up having to work with bosses or employers that you don't click with, or you love your boss, but then you have a teammate or coworker that you struggle with, or then even more than ever the last couple of years, having your dynamic totally changed on you. My brother is one of those corporate people who actually loves being in the office. I don't. I love working from home as much as possible. But unless I'm on site doing a fabulous retreat or training or something. But he really misses his office culture. He really missed his, office parties and his friends. I mean, he's got 3 kids and his wife, and that was really his only social life outside of the family. So it's just, how do you find joy in your job, even in such a changing environment, in the remote work environment? And I think also, just as an introduction here as well, I think COVID gave us the opportunity to introduce corporate America to how important emotional wellness is. Because I think, we had the physical wellness part, and, we'd kind of moved into, now you can get a therapist if you want to, through your insurance, through your company, if you need some counseling. But as far as like emotional wellness as a lifestyle, as a working business style, and something that all of a sudden the company's like, oh my gosh, everybody's quitting, everybody's leaving, nobody's happy, they hate what are we supposed to do? And I think that's a huge piece that I try to bring in, which is, this isn't just going to end when COVID is over. This is, emotional wellness is integral to your company, to your employee success. If you have a happy employee, I don't care if that involves helping them make their whole life experience happy, they're going to be better at work. They're going to be easier to get along with. They're going to make you more money. And that's statistics to prove it too. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I love how you're talking about like the emotional wellness of employees, because I do think with remote work, it can be isolating. You can you can end up being very isolated, and that office culture of being with your fellow coworkers can be very important. What are some of the things that you're seeing develop in that regard in terms of businesses that maybe are still working more remotely? You know, are there any specific strategies that you see people taking for helping to bring that networking part that is lost of that? You know, can you share any of the types there?
A couple of trends. One is, and partly that I encourage as well, if you're not going to get the in the room kind of FaceTime that we used to get, then companies are starting to go more into big events and retreats. So instead of having meetings all the time, maybe once a quarter or every 6 months, they have a destination retreat for their company, you know, like a really cool place. You go for 5 days, you're obviously, you know, doing the corporate training or whatever, but then you're also just having a lot of fun and bonding, and you kind of get to enjoy your fellow employees as friends, right? So the shift in where the dollars are being spent. The dollars are being spent a lot more around events and special occasions instead of just bringing in lunch every day. You know what I mean? So it's kind of shifting that a little bit. Another trend is helping employees, and this is something I'm really interested in expanding because it hasn't begun a lot yet. The trend is that people who aren't getting their social life at work, now that COVID is relaxing, they're getting it in their local communities, which is a wild change in our social demographic and the way things have worked for a long time. There's this weird sort of back to the 1950s, just a little bit, where you're hanging out and barbecuing in the street with your neighbors on a Monday afternoon. What? You know, or you're involved in community volunteers, and you're involved in other programs where you're literally getting to know people in your own area as opposed to you're only friends with people at work. So you still interact with the people at work, but I think there's a lot of opportunity here for long-term emotional wellness and growth, because you don't necessarily get to pick who you work with,
right?
But you do get to pick who you associate with voluntarily, whether, you know, whether it's a religious organization or a club or, you know, whatever you want to get involved in. So I think I'm encouraging, as I talk to corporate leadership, to start helping employees that are remote, especially if it's remote permanently now, support them and in helping them integrate into their communities, whether that's by giving them funds to join particular organizations or whether it's creating networks around certain subjects. So these are sort of the trends I'm seeing, and I think moving in a good direction.
Can I ask a question about this? So my wife's company is officially this month transitioning back to the office. And, you know, there's been a lot of resistance to it within the company. She's a high-tech company. So this is what's going on within high-tech companies. You know, they've pushed back when they're going to start doing that several times in high-tech companies. You're in Sacramento now, San Francisco. You're in the middle of it. What are you seeing on the edge?
Yeah. It really varies on the company. My husband is a sales, he sells software. So, and when I met him, we lived in Silicon Valley and we lived there for over 10 years. So I kind of see that up close. I'm not living in Silicon Valley per se right now, so I don't kind of see the coffee shop trends, you know, where you just hear the dialogue. But I think from what I'm seeing around with his company is they're probably, for the most part, they're probably going to go remote permanently, which is interesting. Or some of my friends that I was visiting this weekend were both in tech in San Francisco, and his company is probably going to stay mostly remote, more events and, you know, getting together for events and meetings as opposed to renting out office. Her company is going to do a mixture. So they're going to have, you know, like 3 days at home, 2 days at work, so they can have in-person meetings and experiences. So I think the companies honestly are experimenting with what the threshold of change their employees can handle. So let's play with it and see because every company is different and their dynamic with each other is different and what their product is. So are we just as good all working from home, or is there a stronger bottom line if we're in the same space for a certain percent of time? So I think that it's really in flux. Like, I don't think anyone has the answer yet. This is like, let the experiment begin.
And I think it's very interesting, this idea of a hybrid kind of workspace, because I do see that there may be some people who are a little bit more self-motivated for whom remote work could be the better option because they have a little more flexibility in how they do their work and stuff. But then there are people for whom it would be difficult, you know, like I remember, you know, I had a very good friend and, you know, he became self-employed for a time. And it was very hard for him to do that because it required a lot of self-discipline, a lot of, you know, making sure he got up and actually got dressed and ready in case he had to go out and meet somebody or whatever. And it was a rough thing for him because he didn't have. So I think it's interesting, this dynamic that you're seeing of employers looking at what works best for who, kind of offering a little bit for everybody, because there may be employees for whom remote work might actually be more productive, and some for whom it's just not.
It's not. And that's so true. For my husband, he says he's like twice as productive working from home. And I think that's just really fascinating. But others, yeah, not so much. I like working from home, but I'm not as productive, I don't think, because I don't know, like being in, I mean, I don't have kids, but we have 3 dogs and we have, you know, the UPS vans, like there's this kind of this constant chaos. And I'm not a multitasker. So maybe that's one of my writer things. I don't know. I am like a monofocused person. So when there's kind of that chaos, so like today when I'm on the road, so I got to come into like a WeWork space. I was like, I'm in an office and I can just work and not like answer the doorbell and like, oh, I should rinse the dishes. And so I think it just really depends on the individual and, you know, how they're feeling about that and, you know, how that hybrid is, how it's going to flush out. I guess, you know, that's one of those things we're just going to wait and see.
Yeah. It might be better if I go to an office because I feel like Starbucks is taking all of my money because I just randomly go and I'll go like, I don't know, twice a day. And then my kids have gotten to where, you know, they want a cake pop and they want their own drink like a water or lemonade, whatever. And that just ups my bill. And I don't know about anybody else, but that hurts me. So I feel like maybe I should rent an office space. So I just stop giving my money to Starbucks or stop going to Target.
Right?
Oh, I don't think that's going to happen, Amy. Let's face it. Okay.
I know. You know, I know. I know. My boss is just mean, as my mother would say, because I fire my mom like every day. So my mom would say that. My mom would be like, she's going to go on strike, you know, because my mom works with me. But, you know, it's kind of one of those that it might be better for someone like me to have a little office where I'm just like, no, I'm not going to go to Target. I'm not going to rabbit hole down the Target coupons, you know, because I'm just a sucker. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I can multitask. Like, I've got 10 windows open. I got y'all in another window. I'm like, I can multitask. I got my daughter is watching Encanto. I bought a puppy. It's a whole thing.
Oh my God.
It's a whole thing. But I'm just saying, you know, Starbucks would probably take a hit. I could, you know.
Well, here's the thing, because I've gone to Starbucks and spent in a day, if I was working, you know, like $30. It's not hard. By the time you get, and then you're like, oh, I should take my friend a drink, and like it just never ends. So just for an example, so anyone who hasn't experimented in sort of like the office suite rental, you know, this is WeWork principle, right? Where you have open work areas, you have private booths for phones and Zoom calls, you can rent a private office. I mean, I'm not running this, so I'm not making anything from saying this. But okay, but like almost an all-inclusive experience, it's like $119 a month. And you can come as many days as you want. You can come 7 days a week if you want. Coffee is already in the coffee room. There's oatmeal, apples, and snacks in there. You don't have to pay for that. And like, quite honestly, if someone feels like, and I say this, if your emotional wellness and your productivity say Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to that place so that I can just, maybe it's even writing. If your writing environment at home is a little chaotic and distracting, then 2 days a week you get the sitter or you get whatever and you just go. And so it's definitely for some people, it's worth checking it out.
I'm one of those guys, and I have to emotionally say, okay, it's time to go to the office. I have to have some place to go. Or I can't get work done.
No.
Yeah. Now for Russell, the cigar lounge is like an office because he and I are cigar lovers, so we can go over there and be in that cigar lounge and work, and it does create a good environment for us. Now, I'm
cozy.
thinking about your book, right?
Yeah.
So what was the genesis for writing the book? I mean, I know you have the training program. I'm assuming that it kind of came from that, but what made you decide, I think I need to write a book?
Yeah. Well, actually, I had been basically blogging, doing a Twitter blog for several years. I had been just writing a lot of individual motivational, inspirational work, and getting a ton of feedback on Twitter. I mean, right now I think I have 110K followers, and people started asking for the book. They said, could you start writing this kind of content? And I am a big, very visual person. So for me, it's very much about visually pairing it with a message that tells you, that feeds off each other. So give me the written information and then give the impact with an image. It's not just a nice picture, but that integrally relates, that really brings it home. In other words, you could almost just look at the picture and get a message, or you can look at the message, or you can look at both and really get a powerful punch, and especially for people that are visual or artistic or love nature. So I said, okay, let's go for it. And also the principle behind was I really wanted to write a personal empowerment book that you could read for a minute or two and get a day's benefit. Get something to chew on for the rest of your day. You didn't have to read a whole chapter. You didn't even have to listen to a whole audiobook, a whole chapter. Just give me a punch. And so, it's broken up into 12 chapters. It's like 285 pages. It's a really gorgeous book, and you can get the digital version, but I have to say that the print version is just like a really, really special experience. It's just so beautiful. I mean, this is a really short page, but some of these are just like full immersion photography, art. And it's really about how to bring balance into your life to generate joy. It's not just about joy. There's a chapter on joy, but is how do you create a lifestyle that wakes up your potential, that helps you set your navigation and not get stuck, that helps you become a better world citizen, that helps you really experience your joy. So there's quite a lot of different sizes of writing, but also it's all original. This isn't just a compilation of some sort, and experiences. So a lot of people say they have it on their bedside table, on their desk at work, or their coffee table, and they can just dive in. You can read 1, you can read 10, you can read the whole book, whatever kind of what you need that day, or find it by subject, by chapter.
So I want to talk about like the word joy, because like you see a lot of people focusing on happiness, right?
Yeah.
Happiness. But it's interesting that you choose to focus on joy. How do you differentiate those two concepts of like, happiness versus like living in joy, being happy and living in joy? How do you see those as being different?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. And I really did consciously think about it when I started working around on my branding. One, I realized, happiness is oversold in a certain extent. And then what kind of helped me make the decision, though, was really learning to differentiate it for myself. So to me, we've grown up in a culture where happiness is really about externals often. What's your income, what's your job, who's your significant other, what kind of clothes do you get to wear, what kind of car do you drive. And it's kind of all or nothing. Either you have all the stuff and you're happy, or you're missing something and you aren't. So it's just sort of like this. And it often is just changes rapidly. The happiness from, oh, I'm really happy, to, oh crap, I just got bad news and now I'm, something's going down. So to me, joy is more of an intrinsic, much deeper thing. Joy is more of a gut thing. It's less about surface and am I having fun today, which is great, and more about joy is a really grounded place of peace and well-being that you can draw from even on a bad day. It doesn't mean you're like this on a bad day. It just means that you have sort of a grounding. Because I think joy is really, we're all born, it's like a birthright. We were all born with something that, a baby is joyful when it's laughing and cooing, right, Amy? I mean, when the baby's happy, it's just like, it totally warms your heart in this amazing way. Or even your puppy. You know, he's not happy because he has a fancy dog bed, which he probably does, but
it's heated. It is a heated dog bed. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I knew this somehow. But he's joyful when he's just playing. It's just like bubbling out. So we all were born with this. We've learned to discipline it, to push it down, to hide it, to say we don't deserve it. I don't think we ever lose it. We just lose the connection to it. So for me, it's not just about feeling happy. It's about a grounded space that actually empowers you for life. So that's the tip of the iceberg around joy and why I just chose to approach it specifically from joy.
Yeah, and I really love that because you're right. Like happiness can be very circumstantial. And you can go from being very happy to being very sad very quickly. But joy can be something that is more underlying. You can be you can be in joy, you know, and enjoy your life without necessarily being super happy all the time, you know, rainbows kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because you see some people who have like a very like a peaceful essence around them, and it doesn't mean they're jumping up and down, but you know, you could even say in a certain way like almost a Zen essence, not that that's what I'm trying to teach, but a sense of grounded well-being. And then whether they're like grinning or not, they have joy, like they have that centering. And I think we're so scattered as a society that it's really good to start coming back to that.
So what are some of the things like when you're doing your training sessions with people, trying to help them to come to that place of finding that groundedness and joy? You know, what are some of the things that you work with them on?
Yeah. So one of the first things is creating awareness around joy, because we know when we're happy and we're unhappy. We may not always know why, but what brings, and granted they're cousins, okay? So we can't completely separate happiness from joy, but creating an awareness of what brings you joy, like that kind of solid well-being, and what pulls it away. And I have there's a free journal on my website. It's a hidden page, and it's a 1 week joy journal. It's not a lot of writing, but if anybody wants to check it out, it's free. It's AnnScottlin.com/joy journal. So it's not the book, it's a joy journal. And it's 2 questions in the morning and 2 questions in the evening for a week. And it also has some great visuals, but kind of helping you start looking for what brings you joy and what doesn't. Sometimes the things we do repetitively aren't really bringing us joy, but we do them anyway. Or let's say, and I'm not like going on an exercise tangent here, but let's say for some people, when they do their exercise in the morning, they actually feel legitimately better all day. And they're like, yeah, that actually like brought me joy. Like I actually felt exhilarated from that. I actually, so what if I did 10 minutes of exercise in the morning? Now I'm noticing that. Or, you know, I'm just too busy to play with the dog much today. But then I realized when, like, that's one of mine because I love dogs, you know, I'm like, oh my word, I get this, you know, you can just feel the chemicals in your brain bringing out all those happy hormones, all those happy things, right? And I'm like, I think this is my dopamine fix. What are those things? And what are the other things that don't? Because sometimes even things we discipline. Okay, I'm just going to use exercise again, so someone's going to kill me here. What if doing a certain exercise routine makes you miserable? Then let's take a note of that. Don't do it anymore. Like,
yes.
Joy awareness.
Okay, I like it. Leg day. No one likes a good leg day. Like, no. Doing squats, no one likes that either. So I like it. Okay, I can get behind
that. Yeah. Okay. So find something that does. I mean, do a dance class, whatever, right? So instead of just like, I'm going to force myself to do this stuff, how can we find just shifts? And this is why it's not like you don't have to meditate for 20 years or go on a special juice diet or anything to have your joy. It's these little micro adjustments every day. It's not, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It's amazing how much progress you can make in a short time. And it really starts with just the awareness. What is bringing me joy and what is sucking it away? You know, sometimes it can get into friendships and relationships, and that gets a little sticky. But then at least you have some awareness and you can make some choices, right? So that's kind of, awareness is a really big part of it.
And I think I really love what you're saying about, like, you know, we all know we have to exercise, right? Exercise is important for us and stuff, but finding the exercise that actually works, because I have found, you know, that if I'm being forced to like do a routine, you know, like squats and this and that, I may stick to it for a little while,
Right.
but it will go away because I don't like it. It does not bring me joy. It's a hassle. It's a burden. But, you know, I have discovered walking Aria, you know, for an hour every day, I can do that. I
Amazing.
can actually do that. And we, you know, because it's enjoyable. I'm with the fluffy dog, you know, we're having, and it's out in nature, which is terrible, but still, you know, I mean, we are having a good time, you know, and it's something that I enjoy. So I actually look forward to it versus dreading the activity. And I think it's the same thing even with food. Like, you know, I mean,
oh, absolutely.
People are like, oh, you gotta eat healthier and here's a bunch of broccoli. Well, you know, not a broccoli fan, you know.
No, I like my donuts. Okay, I like my donuts. It's a thing for me. It's just no. Okay, just let me have mine or my breakfast tacos or banana nut bread. You know, like.
But you can like you say, you can make minor adjustments so that you are eating better. You know, but you're still not. But because when it is a burden, you're right. You're not going to stick to it. You're not.
No, and it doesn't. And if you find like a healthy version of your diet that does make you feel better and feel happier, then it's also a really conscious choice. It's not a guilted choice. I think that's a huge piece of finding your joy, is moving away from the guilt motivation that a lot of us use to motivate our diets and exercise, and moving more towards what makes me actually feel good, right? So you might pass up on that second piece of cake because you just know you're going to feel better, not because you're going to punish yourself if you eat it. You know, it's sort of like, I say too, it's kind of like, make that, you know, I'm an actress a large part of my life as well. And, you know, so everybody's always, of course, around about diet and exercise and this and that. And my favorite advice I ever got from one of my acting teachers was just decide if you're going to have the burger, have it, enjoy it, no guilt, or decide not to have the burger, but don't have the burger and then go feel guilty about it. It just doesn't serve any purpose. You don't enjoy it. You don't enjoy it afterwards. You don't enjoy the memory of it. It's just that you're like, oh, I suck. I blew it again. Like, make these choices and be fine with your choice, you know? And I'm like, I like that a lot.
I love that. See, we need t-shirts. Be fine with your choice. Yes, that's a t-shirt I can get behind right there. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's true. It totally is true. And a lot of what I talk about is nature, because it's also about finding those things that bring you joy. So for some people, maybe you with wasps and certain kinds of alligators in nature and things, not a really good thing. but for me in general, and probably Russell a bit because he loves Lake Tahoe, you know, hiking is massive for me. Running on a treadmill makes me want to just like die. But hiking for 10 miles, which will make me very tired, being out in nature is amazing. Like, that's totally different experience for me. So a lot of my book, a lot of what I talk about, is a whole chapter on the book just on nature as well, is, you know, bringing those pieces into your life that will bring you joy and finding out what they are. And I just want to share one or two little things from the book chapters. One of my favorite chapters, chapter number 3, which is be a benevolent world citizen, because I think, and this is so needed in general right now, right? But what's really beautiful about joy is that you don't have to have it to share it. And when you share it, you get it. And this is magical. This is where I feel like it's like joy should be a religion, because not that it should be. Joy is like that. You don't, there's not a magical formula that you have to follow, and anyone can share joy. Anyone, any political, any religion, doesn't matter, right? You can reach across the border. You can share joy. You can share a smile. And joy is that piece that you can just, if you say you have a bad day, well, your awareness can be, I'm having a bad day. I'm not really feeling very joyful today. So my prescription is, I'm going to try to bring joy to 3 people today. And when you do that, when you buy your dog a new bone, they're people too, right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
When you buy your dog a new bone, when you help the old lady put her groceries in the car, when you share a smile with someone, you feel better too. They benefit, you benefit. And it's one of those things where you don't have to have it to give it away, because it's magical. It's almost atomic. When you create it by sharing it, it comes back to you. So by being,
that's hugely powerful, because I've always believed that if you focus on helping other people, your problems, your own personal problems sort of shrink. Because if your mind is all focused on your problems, they become these magnified issues that you fail to find the solutions to, because you're so overwhelmed, you're in it so hard. But when you're helping someone else, sometimes the solution to what you're going through sort of manifests, and
it does.
You're not like miserable with thinking about what your problem is currently.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, it's so true. It's so true. And, they say, even as we all get older, and they say retired people are always healthier when they're involved with other people and they're not just focused on themselves. That's just one example, right? Of, I have an extended family member who's very isolated because they are fighting an illness and they're elderly. And but they didn't have to be, it's a choice. And it's like, how do you explain to someone how much more joy they would have if they weren't just complaining about all their own symptoms, which I am sympathetic. But, what if they helped encourage someone else who has the same condition? Like, what if you get outside yourself, right? And also just reframing a bit around joy in your life. The last chapter actually is called Learn to Love the Endings. It's one of my favorite chapters. It happens to be the last chapter, because I think a lot of times we think of endings as bad things: end of a job, end of a relationship, end of perfect health, end of whatever, right? But it doesn't actually have to be negative. It can be a positive. It's really so much about reframing and learning to really be grateful with every element, and anticipating the new chapter even after the end of the book. That's good. I'm going to keep that. It's not just a new chapter, it's a new book.
Yes. Yes. So, speaking of, are you planning a second book? Are you planning a second book?
I am actually, and I'm excited about it, because this one was much more of a, snippet, motivation, inspiration, self-empowerment. The next one I'm really planning to come out in 2023, and it's going to be kind of unique. It's going to be focused on young professionals, like 25 to 35.
Oh, okay.
Specifically, yeah, right. Around emotional wellness, because they tend to be a more receptive group, for starters. And they've had a rough ride the last few years. So how can we bring that into their business workplace, their corporate workplace? And that's specifically in that age group. And I'm doing a lot of research with a lot of other people I'm working with, and bringing, new information in for the book, creating some new statistics for that book. But it's going to be very practical, fun, kind of, the how-to manual, easy read. And I'm really looking forward to it, because I think not only can I use it in my programs, but just keep it really relevant and fun. So.
Well, and I think that's very key, because a lot of times younger generations are looking at the world. They're looking at how complex things have become. It's difficult, and they do need. I think younger generations, and Amy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like I think they want to make a difference in the world, and so when they don't feel like they're making a difference, it affects their ability to enjoy what they do. And I think that it's critical to help them tap into that, within themselves, not necessarily always getting it, because sometimes you just don't get it from your job. Like the businesses don't necessarily give that to you, but you need to kind of bring it yourself, in a way.
And this is awesome what you just said, because even if I'm bringing these concepts into the workplace, a lot about finding the joy doesn't actually have to do with the job. It's about, are you fulfilled in your life? So, because if you are, you will be better in your job and your space and your communication. So if your job isn't your dream, but it's a job and you need the job, then what are you doing outside your job to fulfill that need, to feel useful? What organization are you working with? How are you mentoring someone? What are those pieces that really bring you that sense of fulfillment? And then it doesn't matter what your job is per se, you're still fulfilled, but you can still come into the workplace and teach these things, and have employers understand the importance of these things and support that kind of behavior, create opportunities. So I think that's really interesting that you said that. It's really right on.
I love it. But before we get hater glares from Russell on my time,
it's been a challenge.
He is my time Nazi, and I can just see him doing, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get a hater text message here in a little bit. But like the conversation can go on, and that's
I know the show was getting better and better, so I was like, leaving it alone.
I hate to be the bad guy. I always start off as the fun, like, woo, yeah, we're gonna do this. Then I have to be the bad guy at the end, and I really kind of hate. It's a love-hate relationship. It really is. But
learn to love the endings. Remember the chapter.
I know exactly.
I know the ending for this show. There will be fun, and we'll have Anne come back when she's got her new book and talk more about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, closing comments, questions, statements with anyone. I'm going to let Russell go first because I just feel like he's chomping at the bit. I can see it.
Well, I had to be quiet because Fern and Ann were like, they were really rolling. So,
I know.
When the game's going hot, you don't interfere with the pitcher when the pitcher's hot. So I was just quiet and let them roll. And the one thing you haven't done is told us where they can find your book and where they can find you on the internet.
Awesome. So yes, thank you so much. So you can find me on my website, AnneScottlin.com. If you're just listening only, it's ANNESCOTTLIN. AnneScottlin.com. The book is also there, or you can just buy directly on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. We have a digital version, even though it's a highly illustrated book. We made sure that we have a digital version as well as the hardback and the paperback. And come join the family and ping me on Instagram, Twitter. I would love to meet you, other authors out there. And my word for 2022 is partnerships and collaboration. So let me know how I can help support you guys in your businesses and your books.
Wonderful. Fern, what about you?
I love this idea of, get outside yourself and do something for others. Find your joy, find what makes you truly grounded in yourself. And I'm looking forward to reading your book and connecting with you more, my friend. It was awesome. I love this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love it. Well, if you happen to hear, which you probably will, my daughter is at my door, which is the perfect time to end the show before things get crazy. Absolutely. But Anne, thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday morning to come and talk to us about your book and just living a more joyful life, even the work that you do and everything like that. I know all of us kind of need that. It's very uplifting. So we will definitely have to have you back. It has been a wonderful conversation. But you guys, don't forget about the week number 2 of Author Branding tonight at 7 p.m. Central on Through the Eyes of Authors. Make sure you're there. But until next time, you guys, we hope you have a fantastic week, a great rest of your Monday, and we'll catch you all next Monday.